Mm. Morning, y'all. Whew. Lucas Gabrielle, good morning. Mm. Having a little coffee this morning. Getting my little toilettoire on. I think I just made up a word. And don't ask me what language that was. Oh, the weather's changing, y'all. It's starting to get a little chilly. Welcome, you now person. I can't see everyone's names yet, but I see that you all are coming in here, and I'm really glad to see you. Got a couple of subjects this morning. I don't know if people watch my channel, people watch the, excuse me, woo! If people watch the Reg Flowers YouTube channel regularly, you may know I have, and if you, especially if you like, get down in the comments section, you know, there are certain people who comment a lot and, you know, who I end up talking back to, and sometimes I respond to them in videos. And so today, in fact, today's video is a little bit inspired by a conversation that I'm having right at this very moment with Vlog Like No One's Watching. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. And the conversation happens to be around the topic of diversity as it shows up, well, diversity as diversity shows up in the film The Matrix. And I don't know if people watched my recent video on Red Pill Black, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about Red Pill Black. I'm wearing a red shirt today in honor of Red Pill Black. Talk about a little bit more about Red Pill Black. Lycheens, welcome. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're catching me live today. I don't know how long the broadcast is going to last today. It's going to last until the conversation is finished, I guess. You know, if people jump on, that may extend the conversation some. If people don't jump on, the conversation may be truncated a little bit, but we'll see. Woo, veganista! I know that is a challenge for you to get up for this broadcast, and so I thank you, humbly thank you for joining us this morning. And you may be barely awake, but I have a feeling that today's topic is going to get you a little bit juiced up. Today's topic may get you a little bit juiced up. I was about to say that I'm having a debate right now. It's a discussion. Maybe it's a debate. It's more of a debate than a discussion because we're discussing the nature of diversity as it shows up in the film The Matrix. And the reason that I have been talking about The Matrix is because there's a whole red pill movement on YouTube. And I'm going to say it's a movement on YouTube in that it's not really a social movement because I don't think it's having a huge effect on, say, like policy change. I don't think that people from the red pill community are, you saw incels were banned on Reddit. I don't know. No, I didn't know that. I don't even know who incels is. I'm not sure what that is. But I'm going to take a little note. I have my little notebook here. There's a couple of things I'm working on, y'all. I'm so excited today. One, you know, so yeah, so we're going to talk about that. But the idea of the Matrix, and if people are familiar with the Matrix, I don't know, it's an old movie now. It's from back in the 90s, and that's ancient. That's 30 years ago. About 30 years ago, right? When we talk about the 90s, but the film itself is more like, you know, 20 years ago. All right. Okay, so veganista, you may have a lot to say. So since it's diversity related, we need to preserve endangered languages around the world. I don't know much about endangered languages. And I'm not gonna, so I don't know, since I don't know much about it, I don't, you know, I'm gonna I would ask, this is one of those situations where if it's something I don't know about enough to discuss it, I would say, Lucas Gabriel, if you want to jump on and guest today and talk to us a little bit about what you mean, that would be awesome. Love Light Ananda, good morning. Welcome to the live stream. So let me write this down. Incels, INCELS, is that just what it is? And I should just look it up. And they were banned on Reddit. I don't really know, I don't know that much about Reddit, and a couple of the things that I was searching today showed up on Reddit. So I maybe need to jump. I'm probably really late to the game. Um, and there's a website. You're saying, so yeah, so come on, yeah, come on and talk about it. Yeah, just jump in the queue. Um, and I would love to have you talk about that. Let me get let me just do a little offer a little agenda for the day. So there's this discussion, and like right now, well, I'll talk about the conversation that I'm having with Vlog Like No One's Watching. It's about the idea that the Matrix is not about diversity. And when I say not about diversity, meaning like I've interpreted it, for me, it's about diversity, right? I'm not saying that when the Wachowskis sat down to make The Matrix, they said, let's make a film about diversity. They were making a science fiction action movie, right? It was about science fiction action movie, right? About, Neo, waking up and fighting the machine, right? Going against the machine, right? Whatever that means. But the film, because of the what they created, is a remarkable example of the diversity and how diversity can show up in a popular work of art in a really cool way that doesn't, make us all go, you know what I mean? It can just shows up in a really cool way, in a way that is cohesive and organic and effective. And there aren't that many examples of that in mainstream, coming out of Hollywood for sure. And so a film like The Matrix, for people who don't see themselves that often in movies, becomes a really important film. And I was accused of trolling for having this interpretation of the film, for having this take on The Matrix. And so we went back and forth, and Vlog, how y'all, Vlog Like No One's Watching, can tend to dig in their heels around things, but I thought it would be a great thing to talk about and ask your opinions, and to find out your opinions on The Matrix. I also want to talk a little bit more about Red Pill Black, because I watched some videos, and in my video about Red Pill Black, I was not so much critical of Red Pill Black, but just saying that I thought Red Pill Black was an example of a kind of thinking that is just pretty commonplace and not, not very thoughtful. And I wanted to offer some examples of what I meant. I didn't give very many examples of why I thought Red Pill Black specifically was not very thoughtful in their, in their approach to political criticism. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but I also want to just tell you guys what I'm doing and what I'm up to and what I've done lately and what's cool. So I had been talking about this. Oh, first of all, I'm going to show you all this. Please don't laugh at me. Please don't laugh at me. But y'all, I got a medal. I got, this is my, and it's a little bit heavy, y'all. It's kind of cool. This is, and I don't know if you can read it. It says, in recognition of outstanding public service, but this is my Jefferson Award that I was given from Pace University. I do some work in there. I run a course that's a service learning course, so it gives their students an opportunity to go into communities and make a contribution in some way that's more than just like a one-day show up and hand out goodie bags, but they have to really be engaged. It gets students really engaged in communities. Yes, thank you so much, thank you. It gets students really engaged in the surrounding communities around PACE, and so it gives, as a private institution, the students can be a little bit isolated on that small campus, and so it gives students a chance to get out into the world and, try to make a difference. And I've been running that course for, I believe, 4 years now, maybe 5 years now, 4 or 5 years now. And so one of my colleagues, in fact, we co-teach an honors course called 21st Century Dramatic Text and Intercultural Dialogue. And so the professor that I teach that course with nominated me for the award, and they accepted it, and it's basically juried by peers. So others who have already been who have won the award in the past are the people who kind of judge from the nominations, and I was selected, and I think everybody then gets thrown into a whole other bucket, and then there's like a national award, and so you go to Washington, D.C. I don't, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so there's so now I have a new thing that I have to carry around with me and take care of. So I'm, so that's this thing. So I'm glad about that. I also think I've been talking about this trip that I took with a group of young people to Purchase College. Yesterday we took a group of young people to Purchase College with a group of adult volunteers acting as mentors, and they wrote plays, y'all. These young people wrote plays, and the plays are going to be presented in Red Hook, Brooklyn. So if you're in the New York City area and you can get into Red Hook, you'll be able to come and see those at, they're going to be done at the Visitation Church of the Visitation of the Blessed Virgin Church in Red Hook, Brooklyn. You can look that up, but they'll be presented on the 15th and the 16th of December. So that's about a month away. So I'm excited about that. And the trip was great, and the plays are great, and they wrote about some pretty compelling things. I think when people think about young people writing plays, they, I don't know what they think about, but these young people wrote some plays on some pretty impressive and challenging themes. So I'm really excited about that. And then the last really cool thing is that I went to the Signature Theater last week, and I caught Jesus Hopped the A Train, which is a Stephen Adly Guirgis play. And it was just an amazing production. It was an amazing production. So if you are in the New York City area and you have it in your budget to go and catch a play, it's off Broadway. It's not super, super expensive. I think the regular ticket price is maybe somewhere around $50, which is it's not cheap. I actually got to go on Pace University because I went with my 21st Century Dramatic Text course students. But yeah, so Jesus Hopped the A Train. Really well done. I think Mark Brokaw was the director. Yeah, Mark Brokaw Brokaw directs, and it's an amazing cast, and just a great play. So if you want to catch that, and the Signature has a program where they will produce the works of a single playwright for an entire season, and this year it's Stephen Adly Guirgis, and I think I'm pronouncing the name correctly. So yeah, they're going to be doing Our Lady of 121st Street next, I believe. But yeah, if you're in the New York City area, in the fall winter of 2017, do catch Jesus Hopped the A Train at the Pershing Square Signature Theater. So yeah, so those are all of those things. I've started working on a new play that will, in fact, treat cooperative economics. And you guys are like, what? You're doing a play on cooperative economics? Last year I wrote a play on the development of race in the United States from colonial Virginia to the present, and it was okay. It was a hip-hop musical, but, so that's the play that I'm working on now, and I have some ideas about that, but I'm sitting down with, it's inspired by the the book Collective Courage by Jessica Gordon Nembhard, and I've been talking to y'all about that book, and if you can get your hands on it, please do get your hands on it. When I post this on YouTube, I will, in the description box, connect to a link that has a discount code to be able to get your hands on the book for 20% off. So yeah, so what is it? What is it? Mon Frere, Mr. Flowers, thoughts on Dead Man 1985 psychedelic western. I believe that it's a Jim Jarmusch film. I think it's Jim Jarmusch, right? And I think I saw it. I'm gonna write down. And was Johnny Depp? Did it feature Johnny Depp? Yeah. You know, I have decent memories of it, but it's been so long. It's been so long. Did you watch it recently, Theo? Did you see it? And welcome to the live stream. And Chickpea Sarni, welcome to the live stream as well. Did you see the film recently? And are you suggesting that I watch it? Because I will. I'm a fan of Jim Jarmusch in general. So that is why I watched it then. You know, and I didn't think of it. It's so interesting because you say psychedelic western. Because I think of Jim Jarmusch as just Jim Jarmusch, I didn't think of it as a psychedelic, as either psychedelic or as a western. I thought of it as a Jim Jarmusch film. But yeah, so you did totally social center viewing. So it was a view, you saw a screening of it somewhere. Spiritual purgatory, colonialism. You know what? I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm gonna have to watch it. Thank you so much. And so Theo, as people are asking whether or not it is on Netflix. So y'all, we're gonna keep on answering questions. I do see that I have one guest in the queue, and since I've done the kind of agenda, part of the agenda, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna get our guest in. Want to read a couple more things. Have you heard of the YouTube channel Pop Culture Detective? No. I'm writing these things down. And so, sounds like a 2-day play, 4 parts, like the Kentucky Cycle, which was amazing, by the way. Okay, Veganista. I think you're talking about the co-op play. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to stage it as a conference. So you're going to actually go to a conference, and so the play will be a completely immersive experience. So you'll actually be attending this, well, not actually. The idea is you'll be attending this conference with these historical figures. It's going to be set in the 1930s, the mid to late 1930s, so like 1935-ish. And like an example of some of the characters that you're going to be hanging out with at this conference. Philip, if you know your African American history, if you know your American history, come on, y'all. W.E.B. Du Bois. Michael King Sr., who later changed his name to Martin Luther King and changed his son's name to Martin Luther King as well. Ella Baker, who is a famous female African-American civil rights activist, will be there. Thurgood Marshall's going to be there. Bayard Rustin's going to be there. Y'all, it's going to be happening. It's going to be fun. So the idea is that people will be going to a conference, and on the stage will be a panel of a few of the folks who were, these luminaries of the African-American civil rights movement, and the intelligentsia will be offering this plenary session. But in the audience, sitting aside people in the audience will be all these famous historical figures who are going to be kind of interrupting and interjecting with their points of views. And while people are in the lobby, they're going to get to mingle with, folks, like I said, you're going to get to mingle with Thurgood Marshall, who will be there because his wife actually started a cooperative in New York City. So I'm giving away way too much. But that's it. So we're going to be putting out the press release with the dates in the next couple of weeks. So then I'll do a real announcement about the piece, and it's going to be developed with a company who will be formed as a cooperative. So we're going to form a cooperative company just for the development of this piece, and the company will then collectively own the piece. So Yes, Trey Legal. Martin Luther King Sr. changed his name. There's going to be a lot. So there's a lot of what's wonderful about this play and staging it this way is there's a lot of history that people didn't know. There were certain individuals who were part of the Black liberation movement and the Black national movement, the Back to Africa movement, the civil rights movement, who in the early days were going to visit places like, Germany and seeing what was happening with the Socialist Party there, the Nazis. And some of them were actually, admired what the Nazis were doing. And Martin Luther King Sr. was one of those people who kind of really admired what was happening in Germany, even though there was this anti-Semitism, which many of the black leaders criticized. But Martin Luther King Sr. admired them enough to change. Michael King Sr. admired what was happening in Germany enough to change his name to Martin Luther King. Yeah, so that is one of those weird things. And then he also was very abusive to the young Martin Luther King Jr. And that's one of the things we know. We also know that Martin Luther King Jr. suffered from depression. So all of these things are going to kind of come out through meeting and mingling and overhearing conversations that are going to be happening with all of these historic figures at this conference. And the working title right now is The Black Conference. Yeah, come on. Ujamaa is I think another organization. There's actually an Ujamaa organization that I know that I believe that Ujamaa is the principle of the Kwanzaa principle that feeds into cooperative development. One of the principles of the cooperation group that I'm on the board of in Detroit, Ujamaa, is one of the principles that is embraced as part of that organization. So yeah, that's all stuff that's coming up. Now, let's see who's in the queue here. We have Lucas Gabriel, who's going to talk to us a little bit. We're just going to see what Lucas has to say. Welcome to our first guest, and that we're doing it in the first 20 minutes is amazing. Hey, Lucas. Now, hold on. Let me put my headphones on. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hello, and welcome. So you wanted to talk a little bit about languages and languages that are disappearing and the preservation of language. Yes?
Yes, it's very important.
So tell me a little bit about where you're coming from. Clearly this is clearly culture in general. We see culture being lost all over the planet, right? Because of the way development happens. And obviously language is a part of that. And so I'm really interested in what you have to say. But before you jump in, why don't you just introduce yourself to the folks who are watching?
Hi guys, I'm Lucas. I do a lot of research of different topics online and try to help the world out the best I can.
Mm-hmm. All right. And where are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Connecticut.
Okay, cool. So you're not far from me right now.
Yeah.
I've spent a fair amount of time in Connecticut. Yeah, it's a nice place sometimes.
Yeah, occasionally gets a little riffraff, but we're used to it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what you mean by all of that. But in the meantime, talk to me. Like, how did you first come across the issue of language and languages being endangered?
Well, I'm guessing you've heard of TED Talks, the YouTube channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a couple years ago, the last few years, they've done a video about once every year of how important and how by the end of the century, over half the world languages will be gone around the world. So they're pretty much a race against time. They're trying to get as much documents as possible because it's not government oriented. So they have to do it, what do you call it, for this website, endangeredlanguages.com.
Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that what you're saying is that this isn't the government. There's not an agency of any of the governments that you know of that are part of the movement to preserve these languages. This is all being done through private organizations. I'm guessing, yes,
Yeah,
or
like Yeah, like different professors did some stuff back in the 80s and 90s, and I guess eventually they're going to try and do some more with the best they can, you know.
Okay. And are there places in the world, or are there particular groups that, based on your research, you see as most in jeopardy of kind of vanishing and losing part of their history?
Well, there's definitely a big one, the Anu people of Japan. There's only like three speakers left in the whole world.
And can you what it's
Anu
the
people.
Anu people? Because I'll look this up and might do a little might do more of a video of it on my regular channel.
Mhm.
So how did you so you were looking at TED Talks, and you came across this idea of endangered languages and the fact that that languages are vanishing. What was it that grabbed you? And because there are so many issues that we can deal with, what was it about this issue in particular that made you see it as such a major concern, or that resonated so deeply with you?
Well, it's just because I feel like the main three languages we've always had was English, what's it called? Mandarin, I think, or
Mandarin?
something.
Hmm.
Mandarin, yeah, and Spanish. Not that I'm against these languages, but they're the three most common in the whole world. But
Hmm.
as we get more globalized, a lot of these others are being lost. But what's amazing is some of the young kids, like there's this island in Greece. It's this whistle language, and they pretty much been speaking it for thousands of years, from cow farmers to herders to many other people in society, and they still speak it from ancient Greek.
Wow. So another question is, are you doing anything in particular around? Are you doing any work, or are there organizations close to you, or do you know of any organizations that we can look into that are doing work around this issue?
There's none I know of besides hearing it on TED Talks, but I'll
Hmm.
try and look into if there's any professors in Connecticut that are trying to preserve this as well.
Oh, cool. And I would love it if you could, because you can always reach me through the email on my YouTube channel, askme1@redflowers.com. If you get anything and it moves you to do so, and you want to
Mhm.
forward that information, I would love to be able to just share updates on my channel and just be able to say, hey, I had Lucas Gabriel on the channel, and they talked about this particular issue, and here's where you can learn more. I would love to do that. Um, and so, what is there any other, what else do you want to tell us about this issue? What else do you want to say about this?
Well, I think we should just be more involved. And if it's regarding we learn a couple words of their language, or,
Hmm.
looking at all the old documents, audio, so we can keep these preserved throughout history for 100 years to 1,000 years to come for future generations.
Hmm. Hmm. Cool. So, what else is going on? What else you got going on, Lucas?
uh, Not anything. I just wanted to talk about this. Not anything I know of.
No, okay, cool. Well, I'm glad that you jumped on to talk about this. And obviously, you were able to give me a lot more information that if we had been going back in the text box. And so I'm really, really glad that you came
Mhm.
on to talk about this issue. Like I said, I would love to learn a little bit more about the preservation of language and what
All right.
the average person can do about. Do you
Right,
something you
right.
you
There's
have
one other
thought?
thing I forgot to
Come on,
say. Oh,
come
about
on.
the website. Okay. So there's different those little, like, the little bubbles, the little colored bubbles. The one in greens are at risk. The ones in like yellow are endangered. The ones in red are severely endangered, like the Anu I told you. And
Oh,
the
okay.
the dormant ones are the ones starting to come back, and the awakening ones, which are in gray, are like coming back.
Okay. And you mentioned a website. What is the website?
It's called endangeredlanguages.com.
Endangeredlanguages.com. That's pretty simple.
Hmm. There's a
Okay.
video they have from, I think it's from 2012 or from a couple years ago.
Hmm.
On their website, yeah.
Awesome. Um, Let me look down and see if we have any. Okay, cool. Well then, Lucas, thank you for that. I'm going to check out endangeredlanguages.com. I will likely, if nothing else, I'll mention in my next update that you were on the channel, that you stopped in on the live stream, that you brought this up. I'll tell people about the name of the website. I will check it out myself, and of course, if there's something for me to do like an entire video, I would love to meet somebody who's doing this work. And who knows, I move in so many circles that I may actually know somebody who's doing work around this, and have an opportunity to interview them and talk to them about the issue as well. But that said, I want to thank you for showing up on the channel. Any last words before you say goodbye to the folks?
Well, last words are, I'm glad I got to talk with you guys about this, and we can raise awareness together for the future of the world.
That's awesome. Oh, wait, we have one question from Chichikov. Why is it important to you? Is it purely an academic interest, or do you think languages have special functions?
I think they have special functions just beyond communication we have on a daily basis. It's just culturally been there from the people of Mexico to the people of Brazil, just throughout our whole world, because if we lose that, we just become so homogenized. Like, it's like,
And I see there's a lot of people down. People have been commenting down, and there seems to be agreement with the folks on the who are listening in around it. And Trey Legal says, "Thank you for sharing." Chickpea Sarni says, "It's part of culture." Some Veganista says, "I'm just now YouTubing people having conversation in Otomi." And people saying that they will check out the website. So that said, again, Lucas Gabriel, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the channel. I hope you hang out for the rest of the live stream, and I look forward to learning a little bit more about this issue as we move forward.
Yeah, I'll definitely check out the rest of your live stream.
Okay, cool. All right, peace.
Peace.
All right, thank you from Lucas Gabriel, our first guest in a little while. You guys have been, I don't want to say you've been shirking your responsibility, because I know you come for the reasons that you come, and I don't want to judge you for those things. But it was really nice having a conversation with, like I say, I really love, the thing that I love most about the live stream is it's an opportunity to have a conversation with you, like an actual conversation with you, and regardless of the form that that takes. So thank you so much, Lucas Gabriel, for jumping on. So Theo S says, so first of all, welcome E. Curl. Theo S says, Abba Liciel is another YouTuber to follow who plans to do a PhD in First Nations languages. Oh, that's interesting. I might actually have a reason to start watching Isel's channel again, because I used to watch Isel's channel a lot. I mean, I generally speaking tend to like, people who think out loud. I kind of admire that. There's just a point where, anyway, I have my own things about Isel, but for the most part, I have found Isel's channel, for the most part, harmless, sometimes actually very helpful. And so, yeah, this will give me, thank you, Theo, for sharing that and giving me a reason to go back and check out Isel Mazart's channel. Lychian says, I don't know if you're interested in the state of democracy without elections in Thailand. I would love to hear more about it. So, Lychians, if you want to jump on and talk a little bit about that, we might be on a roll. I would love to have another guest to talk about that. And then otherwise, I can certainly, that's something to look in. I don't know much about it. I will tell you this. One of the things that's been on my mind, obviously, what's been happening in the Catalonia region, and this whole idea of democracy with or without elections is what happens when we see people actually trying to move in a way that is democratic as it is expressed, and that is, the will of the people, the people exercising their right to choose. Oh yeah, oh come on now. Now there's two reasons now for you to, okay. Okay, okay. So I understand why that might be a sensitive topic, but it's something that I certainly would be willing to look into in the same way that I would love to look into the idea of I would love to to look into the topic of endangered languages. But like I said, it's we seem to be a little bit on a roll. So y'all, this thing about the Matrix, which is the title of this video. So if we don't talk about it, I'm basically clickbait. This thing about the Matrix. So I've been doing some reading, and just first of all, I was not aware of this, but apparently the red pill has been an emblem of the trans community since the Matrix films really came out, especially after Lily Wachowski announced their transition. The you say the film, not the film, The Red Pill, but the film, the film, The Matrix, and the idea of the red pill, because the red pill is so central in the Matrix as the way one wakes, the trigger for awakening from the sleep, right? And so for the trans community, apparently, and I want to look more into this, obviously, but this is where I'm introducing this notion that the red pill has been an emblem of the trans community. And so in recent years, to see the red pill co-opted by a movement that is not entirely, but predominantly a straight, cis, male dominated movement. So with that in mind, how is it that this movement has selected the red pill of all things? And to the point where someone who embraces some of the ideologies that surround the red pill movement would be offended at the idea of the Matrix being about diversity. Like, why couldn't it be about diversity? You could say it's about anything. People say that Hamlet is about, Jesus, whatever, what have you, right? So, to have an interpretation of the film, any interpretation should be welcome, right? And we should be able to say, okay, so this person has this interpretation. Let me see what the connections are. It is easy to see the connections. It is easy to see how the Matrix can become a film that exemplifies and expresses so wonderfully the idea of diversity. And I had someone, who was being critical of me, who was sort of a representative from the red pill movement, who was asking me about I'm having a blank, y'all. I'm having a blank, y'all. They were asking me about a particular black movement spokesperson, and Cornel West. Sorry, Cornel West. They were asking me my thoughts on Cornel West, and I think Cornel West is Cornel West. I think he's another. I don't worship anybody. There's nobody in the movement that I'm worshiping. There's nobody in the movement that I'm worshiping. I don't even worship myself, right? There's nobody in the movement. There's nothing that I'm worshiping, right? So to ask me what I think about Cornel West is like, what does that mean? Do I think that Cornel West is an intelligent person? Yeah, generally speaking. Do I agree with everything Cornel West says? No. Do I even agree with the way, Cornel West moves through the world and presents his ideas all the time? No. There were things recently around, Donald Trump. I thought Cornel West, and around Charlottesville, I thought Cornel West got a little bit over dramatized things, and centered themselves a little bit in the conversation. A little too much for me. Like, Cornel West happened to be there when things, went down in Charlottesville. You happen to be there, okay? So, but saying oh, we were endangered and we were surrounded and all those things, and that's likely true. But to me, it struck me in a kind of funky way. But I still respect Cornel West, and I still think that Cornel West is kind of the bomb, right? I did Cornell West. Y'all, guess what? Cornell West is in the Matrix. Cornell West is in the Matrix. You don't put Cornell West in your movie accidentally. Cornell West isn't an actor. You have to go and pursue Cornell West and be like, you know what? I want Cornell West, we want you to be in this movie. And so why do the Wachowskis want Cornell West in their movie? If it's not to send a message to people watching the film, even if it's a subtle message, because not everybody even knows who Cornell West is. And guess what, y'all? When I was watching the movie, I knew who Cornell West was, and it didn't connect to me that it was Cornell West up on the screen. So it was very subtle. But you don't put... yes. So you don't put Cornell West in your movie unless you're trying to send a subtle message that you are embracing a certain kind of politics, or at least you're trying to raise the profile. You're trying to like say, hey, y'all, look, this person, the next time you see this person, pay attention, right? So whatever that is, it doesn't have to be the big thing. So when I'm watching The Matrix and I'm saying that, wow, I see The Matrix as like an example of, to me, The Matrix is all about diversity. It doesn't mean that Lily and Lana were at the time of making the film that they were like, oh, wow, let's make a movie about diversity. And I said this earlier in the broadcast, but it does exemplify diversity. It's a lesson in how diversity can work. It's a lesson in how badass diversity can look. Diversity is sexy, y'all. Diversity doesn't have to be a chore. Diversity can just feel and be the most natural way of expressing a vision of the world, a worldview, right? So it's an amazing worldview, and we root for them. Right? We root for this kind of ragtag group of people who look like they've been patched together. And that's kind of in some ways what diversity is about. It's this idea that we can take so many viewpoints and put them together and create a cohesive society that can work together and serve in a movement towards, a future. So, like the reclaiming iconography de Beauvoir, I like that, reclaiming iconography de Beauvoir. And when you say de Beauvoir, I'm just thinking of like Simone de Beauvoir, and I'm not exactly sure what you mean, Theos, but I'm gonna check it out. So let's see, what else is, this makes sense, the Matrix existential theme, de Beauvoir, one is not born but becomes a woman. Okay, I see. I missed your previous comment. So many people interpret things through a really biased lens. Yeah, I agree. People, and the thing is that, here's the thing, in art, we should be able to interpret things through a biased lens, but we should welcome that there will be multiple interpretations. The thing about The Matrix, though, is I'm not saying that my interpretation is right. You gotta admit that, what's smacking you in the face is all those things, right? All those things are the things that are smacking you in the face when you watch the Vegan Call Quest. Welcome. Hey, how are you? And thank you for inviting. Okay, look, I'm sick of you. Vegan Call Quest, I'm sick of you because you are becoming a true icon of YouNow. You're broadcasting all the time. I'm in the middle of the night as I'm crawling into bed, and I know that you are on the West Coast, but as I'm crawling into bed, I start getting all these messages that you've been broadcasting. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Just to let you know, we were talking a little bit about The Matrix and how The Matrix can be interpreted as a film about diversity. Thank you for the many, many likes. We're talking about how The Matrix can be interpreted as a film about diversity, and how the red pill culture, has co-opted something that, as I am beginning to understand, has been an emblem of the trans community. So the trans community, red pill, they own it. They're owning it, right? And they're owning it. And as, you know, Lily and Lana come forth and go through their transitions and are now trans women, we have a film that has been directed by trans women that is a smash, is worldwide, is a cult success. So much so that a whole movement that has nothing to do with the trans community has embraced it and taken it on as an emblem of their own, but co-opting it and taking it away. And I don't want to say that the red pill movement is anti-trans, because we have like Blair White, who is a trans member of the red pill community, and I don't want to say across the board that I disrespect people from being a part of the red pill community either. That's another thing. That's another thing that I want to talk about. This assumption, here's the problem. I heard red pill associated with that men's right MGTOW side. So here's the thing. So red pill. So I believe that there's a little bit of a struggle that's going on in the so-called red pill community. I believe that there are those who want to turn the red pill community into some kind of ideological monolith. And I think that it's wonderful that there is this red pill community that sees themselves as part of the skeptic community and willing to question things and willing to be critical of things. I think that is wonderful. I think that's wonderful. And that the red pill community can include people from all backgrounds, people of all, from all over the world. Veganista, I don't know that much about Blair White. I just happen to know that Blair White is a trans person, who's a trans woman, who's a part of the red pill community. And so I don't want to, before anybody thinks that I'm like, I've watched like one video sort of with Blair White, and that happens to be a recent Dave Rubin stream where Blair White and Red Pill Black appeared. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about Red Pill Black too, and why I'm talking about Red Pill Black in the first place. So here's the thing, that, I've been doing a lot of research, and I've been learning like who historically was, coming from the right, who historically was coming from the left. And a lot of the Black leaders who have been held up as like these models of, civil rights leadership were Republicans. Some of them were Republicans. Ida B. Wells was a Republican, right? And you had people who were part of the civil rights movement who moved to the right because the right wasn't how it's identified now. And I believe that there are issues now, and I think this is a struggle that's happening on the right. I think it's a struggle that's happening politically all over. Chichikov says, Vegan Conquest says, Blair is pretty right-leaning from what I know. And I'm going to talk about this, with this idea of what it means to be from the right. From my perspective, David, is it Eakes? Uses the matrixisms, use of matrixisms align perfectly with the film. All the political people, right and left, are co-opting it. Okay, I'm hearing that, Chichikov, and I'd love to learn more about this. But again, I don't want to say that there should be a struggle over whether the red pill is a thing of the left or the right. I want to keep trying to wash this away, right? This idea that being from the right means one thing. This idea that being red pill means one thing. These things should not mean one thing. And part of it is this language right now around Red Pill Black, who I don't want to defend because I have my criticisms of Red Pill Black. I'm going to talk about them in this video, in this live stream today. But how can you be fake red pill when you don't really even know what it means to be red pill? And Chichikov, this speaks to what you're saying, right? That to be red pill shouldn't really necessarily mean that you are, right-wing or alt-right or from the left or whatever, regressive. It shouldn't mean any of these. It should, the idea is that you take the pill, you wake up. You take the pill, you wake up out of your sleep. and begin to see things as they are. And so this idea that, you know, red pill black red pill black is fake. What does it mean to be red pill in the first place that we can say that red pill black is fake? And why do some members of the red pill movement feel like they have to narrow the definition of what it means so much that it ends up just being an ideology, that ends up being a cult? It ends up just being a cult. And it's sounding more and more to me, the way I hear the sort of this same old rhetoric, the same old buzzwords, the same old catch, all of these things are making it sound to me like you might as well just be reciting the Ten Commandments, right? You might as well be a cult. You might as well be a cult. And when you start to sound like that to me, it's like, okay, then you're just as bad as everything that you are criticizing, because you're trying to say that there's this one way that we can see the world that is the right way, and once you're there, you're stuck and you're rigid, right? Which is not necessarily what it means to be conservative, I don't think. So, I don't know. We'll talk more about that, and I'll look more into it. But I have so many other things that I want to be doing right now that I don't know that I'm going to put. I'm going to make it the focus. But a little bit more about so the red pill black thing, and that is that red pill black is really being held up as this the new whiz kid in terms of the conservative movement, and I say that because these very mainstream folk like Dave Rubin have red pill black on. But then you have some also, the fact that InfoWars is having red pill black on is a whole other thing. But regardless, I watched a video with red pill black and red pill black talking about, in the Myth of the Coons series, talking about the fact that black people vote Democrat and that that's a problem. And my question, first of all, is, how is the way a person votes having an effect on their material reality? And if what you're saying is that voting Democratic is not having a positive effect on the lives of black people, first of all, you're assuming that there's something about the situation of black people that requires some special attention, first of all, from anybody, which already puts you, in the field of identity politics, right? That you assume that there's something that's so specific about black people that they need special attention. And if part of the whole, red pill ideology, as I see it, is that black people shouldn't need any special attention to begin with. So why does it matter if a black person votes Democrat or Republican? Because no Democrat or Republican should be trying to do anything special for black people. And black people are fine. There's no problems. Everybody's equal. There's no racism. So black people shouldn't need any special attention anyway. Right? So that's number one. And then red pill black turns around and says that the reason that blacks are voting Democrat in the first place is because this thing that Kennedy did back in 1967, and that's just all wrong. With the passing of the Civil Rights Act. First of all, the Civil Rights Act was passed after Kennedy was already assassinated. Do your math, learn your history. Red pill black. Learn your history. Kennedy wasn't even there. Kennedy was not even alive when that act was passed, when the Civil Rights Act was passed and it became law. Anti-discrimination became law. All right? So, no. And that is not when black people started voting Democrat. There were a number of steps that were taken by individuals who were Democrats that started to make black people think, hey, we're being recognized by this group of people. And I'm sorry, as a voter, your interest should be if the person you are voting for is going to affect your life, is going to have a material impact on your life. And I'm sorry, that's not selfish. That's your right as a citizen to focus on your best interest when you go to the polls and pull that lever. Now, I personally feel like that's a fool's game, because pulling that lever may or may not have any effect on your material existence at all. But when you pull the lever, you should certainly be thinking about what is best for yourself and your family. And so for Black people to recognize that, hey, there are some Democrats who seem to be thinking about us during a time when you couldn't even get a fair trial, at a time when you couldn't go to the school, like you were in danger if you, like, they blew up those they killed those little girls. They killed Emmett Till, right? And his murderers got away with it, right? So the fact that Black people were thinking about that, and they decided, I'm going to vote for these folks over here because they are thinking about us. That's not a small thing, okay? That's number one. But it was more than the Civil Rights Act, right? There were other steps that were being taken. For example, Thurgood Marshall was appointed to the Supreme Court. A Black person was appointed to the Supreme Court. I'm just saying. That's not a little thing. That means that a Black voice is the Black person is sitting at the table, who may or may not, we don't know, based on the color of this person's skin, whether or not, but that person had a history of defending Blacks and trying to see Black people get a fair shake for decades before they were appointed to that office. So we're not appointing the Black judge who just happens to have a Black face but doesn't do anything for Black people. This was a Black judge who had done a lot for Black people as both a lawyer and a judge, and then that person was appointed to the Supreme Court. So I'm sorry, the Democrats did that. A Democrat did that, right? And there were several, policies and laws and statements that were made by Democrats who were president and who were not presidents, who had to do with shifting the way that Black people saw themselves aligned with the Democratic Party. It wasn't just what people said. It was things that were done that had made a difference in the lives, concrete differences in the lives of African Americans at certain points, starting back in the 30s, right, and moving through. Right? Democrats have been lazy in their expectations that Black people will always vote Democrat. Now, that's another story. Lychines, I'm with you. That is another story. So to say, hey, Democrats, what have you done for me lately, is a fair criticism. But it doesn't mean, Black people, you should just go vote for the other ones who haven't even acknowledged the fact that, you might need to be coddled or what have you. You know what I mean? Because every voter, I'm sorry, if I'm gonna vote for you, if I'm gonna give you my vote, you better coddle me. You better coddle me. You better make me believe that you're going to do something that is going to improve my material existence. That's going to improve my life. My life. It could be the lives of, but my life, right? Because when I pull that lever, everybody else gets to pull that lever, right, and decide what's best for them. But when I pull the lever, I'm thinking about what's going to happen across the street, in my house, my water, my taxes, all those things, right? So I'm just saying, right? So I don't think it's foolish of Black people. And so to say that Democrats have been lazy in their expectations that Black people will always vote Democrat, that, again, is a generalization, because you don't know what Democrats are doing in those, like my council person, who happens to be a friend of mine. I happen to know that individual is doing things to protect the rights and improve the lives of people of color. That Democrat. I don't know what the senators are doing I don't know what the representatives are doing. Actually, I know what some of the representatives are doing, because I have a representative from my district who happens to do a lot for people of color and the Latino community in Brooklyn. right? So I can't say that Democrats across the board have been lazy and haven't done anything for, and I don't just want to say people of color, but for me, and for my community. So I'm not lazy to say that, hey, the Democrats are working for me, because I happen to know a couple of Democrats personally who are personally working for me, for me, right? I run an organization, right, that, gets support from a Democrat that I know, right? And my organization serves a community that's predominantly of color, a community of African Americans. So, and I'm not trying to like shout people down. I'm not saying that that's everybody's experience. There may be a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm just Democrat, right? And they don't even think about the process. They don't even think about what is going to happen for them. They may be doing things based on just like optics. But I think it is a gross generalization to say that black people are only voting for Democrats because that's just what they do. Let's be honest. Most people vote for who their parents vote for, right? We've always, in our family, we've always been liberal. Like, so liberals kind of breed liberals, right? And then every now and then somebody breaks from their party because they get sick and tired of what's been happening and they go in the other direction, which is kind of what we hear from people like Red Pill Black, right? Who was liberal and then suddenly something happened and they broke in the other direction. Instead of saying, hey, what can I do over here to improve things, they just went to the other direction, assuming that things were going to be better. And now Red Pill Black might be getting chased back. But we'll see. Lai Chin says, I don't know if Republicans will stop race baiting white people after the last election losses. Yeah, I don't know. Elections, it's great when we make the politicians work for us. Yes, and that's the other thing too, is that we have to make them work for us. Is we can't just expect anyone to do anything. We have to make people who are supposed to be working for us work for us. But it can't also all be about just what the politicians are doing, right? We may have to get up there and do some, exercise some leadership skills ourselves and get some people, like even if it's just the people on our block, organized to do something. Like if we think that there's too much trash in the street, get the people on the block together, right? How many people have to show up at a local politician's office for them to go, I don't ever want that to happen again. I don't ever want to show up at my office and have 10 people waiting outside my office. Can you imagine if you showed up for work and there were 10 people waiting outside of your office who all wanted to ask you questions about the thing that you did wrong? You know what I'm saying? So, those are just, let's not underestimate anyone. Let's not underestimate people based on the color of their skin, y'all. You know what they call that when you say that, an entire group of people are doing the wrong thing because of their, based on the color of their skin. Tend to call that racism, right? Or discrimination, what have you, right? Let's not get caught up in that. Veganista says, yes, we start off voting with our parents. Now I see the two-party system is corrupt, must change the system. We're not left with a two-party system. I really agree with you, Veganista. I really would love, and I'm not saying that it all has to come down to electoral politics either, but to, shake things up somehow. I would love to see some third party candidates, and I'm not talking about, I would love to see a third party candidate, show up as, president of the United States and shake things up, but have it be, based on a mass movement of people, not just because, the corporations decide that, ooh, we need to run a Green Party candidate this year and make sure that person wins so that we can then be controlling them too, right? Because that could happen. Oh, that would suck. Yeah, Citizens United being overturned would help prevent that. Yes. So yeah, y'all. So I don't know. I don't know what you think. I want to know what you think. Does anybody want to come on and guest and talk about it? I would love to have you. So those are the things that were on my mind. You know, I did like I didn't want people to think that I didn't have criticisms of Red Pill Black, but because I do, and I will probably look at more of those videos because I realize that there's a lot of people watching those videos and thinking, well, because this is an African American woman or somebody who reads as an African American woman, then I have to believe her criticisms and what she's saying about you know the way black people vote and this and that and the other thing. Another thing is that, oh my goodness, Red Pill Black didn't even realize there were some really offensive things that they said. Like one, their first video is like, "Mom, Dad, I'm a Republican," and the thing that they say is, you know, they go into their mother and father and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I'm a lesbian," and the mom and dad are, you know, really glad that their child is a lesbian. First of all, Red Pill Black, those are your folks. When you imitate parents, we assume that the parents you're imitating are your own. So if that's how your parents responded when you came out of the closet, good for you. I'm just saying, good for you. And if your parents got all over you when you came out as a conservative and got upset, then that's your parents. That's you. Don't say that that's how everybody else's parents are going to get down, right? Because some people may have some parents that are thoughtful and open-minded and intelligent and might just ask questions about, you know, why that is. And might assume that they just, you know, raised someone who was more thoughtful and is going to give more thought to their political leanings than to simply do what their parents did. I'm just saying, right? So that's neither here nor there. Veganista says, I still have sleep in my eyes. So heck no, I can't guess. I understand. The friendly troll, welcome to the live stream, says that awkward moment you walk in and have no idea what's going on. So a couple of things, the friendly troll, I'll just catch you. We've been having conversations about the movie The Matrix and how it might be interpreted as a movie about diversity. It does not necessarily mean that it is a movie about diversity, but it could be interpreted as a film about diversity. And what the meaning of the red pill is, and what it means to be red pill as far as the red pill movement is concerned, and how I hope that within the red pill movement that there's room for different perspectives, and that I don't have to be conservative to be red pill, because just saying conservative, you know, kind of is like a little bit of a label, and I think that red pill is against that whole thing. Another thing that we've been talking about is just Red Pill Black. I was criticizing some things that I noticed in some videos and the way that they were expressing themselves in the video. We had some talk about, you know, why black people vote Democratic and how it can't simply be boiled down to the fact that black people are lazy and don't have time to think about who to vote for, so they just vote for Democrats because Democrats did something good one time, right? And just thinking about like just local politics and how there might be people who are Democrats who are locally doing great things in their communities, and that might be why people are identifying with the Democratic Party. You're welcome. Trey Liga says, I think that the Red Pill movement and the movement of liberation actually have some major things in common, which may be why they have appropriated the red pill, the term red pill, because of cognitive dissonance. That's interesting. The friendly troll says, black people do not even know that it was the Democrats that refused to vote to allow blacks out of slavery. I think a lot of black people do know that, like Lincoln was Republican. Like I said, like, you know, the thing that most people don't know is that before the 1950s, it was about 50-50 in terms of black people voting either Republican or Democrat. You know, so black people do know. Black people have a history of being existing across the political spectrum, and I'm talking about even civil rights leaders existing across the political spectrum, right? That voted 1005 not to release them, right? And here's another thing too. Being a Democrat in the South, you certainly, Democrats in the South certainly were, you know, pro-slavery. And the South was powerful. The South had a lot of power. So yeah, I think a lot of people do know that, the friendly troll. Yeah, I think a lot of people do know. But there was a move, there was a shift in the Democratic Party, and the Democrats realized that if we want to capture the African American base, we better do some things for some African American people. And I think In the same way that we're criticizing Democrats for not doing anything for black people, I think Republicans were resting on their laurels and assuming that blacks would always be Republican because they were the party of Lincoln. And guess what? There was a shift, and there could be a shift again. The point that I'm making is that it's not necessarily about making a shift to the left or to the right or to Republicans or to Democrats, but really focusing on what is happening locally in your community and making sure that the people who have the power to make decisions around you are serving you. Are serving you. So yeah. The Friendly Troll says Democrats today still want slavery. White Democrats. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know. So, the Friendly Troll, are you saying that there are no Republicans that still want slavery? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we can, everything that we say about Democrats, we can also say about Republicans. Democrats haven't done anything for black people lately. Republicans haven't done anything for black people lately. Democrats want black people to be slaves. Republicans want black people to be slaves, right? Just because Republicans aren't in part of the black equation right now doesn't mean that suddenly when black people make Republicans part of their equation that there's going to be some major improvements in their lives. The only reason that there would be major improvements in the lives of black people by becoming Republican would be that Republicans would then have to cater to blacks because they represent a significant portion of their base. So yes, if all of the black people in the world started, all of the black people in America who voted started voting for Republicans, guess what? Yes, we would see a Republican Party shift to addressing the needs of black people. And guess what? I can guarantee you there would be some people who were Republican who like things the way that they are, who would probably go a different way, right? And there would either be a new party that would have to be formed to cater to the needs of the individuals who didn't necessarily want to see so much focus going to the needs of black people. And I'm talking about catering to the needs of black people, like specifically as a special interest group. So the question is, do Republicans want that? Do Republicans want to see their platform shift significantly because so many black people start voting for them, right? The Republican Party would have to be a new party. I think what is expected by Republicans is that they can get black votes without appealing specifically to black voters. So just telling black people that you're stupid to vote for Democrats should not be enough to get them to vote for Republicans. And if any black person starts voting Republican simply because a Republican told them that you're stupid because no, you know what I mean? That would be like me breaking up, like me divorcing my husband because somebody told me that your husband doesn't give you enough things. But I don't know that I should go with them. Why should I go with you? I don't know what you're going to do for me. I have a history. I have a 20-year history with my husband. I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about what you're going to do. So the Friendly Troll says, I think we will never see an honest government no matter who votes or who is elected. And that was one of the things that we were discussing, that it's ultimately not up to, we shouldn't be putting so much of our eggs, I said put our eggs in the electoral basket, but I know that that's offensive to some of the vegans in the crowd, but forgive the expression, but you know what I mean, right? That we shouldn't be putting all of our efforts into electoral politics, that it should be about, building a base, a grassroots base, and that's like your neighbors, and being organized with your neighbors to be able to say, hey, this is what we need in this neighborhood, this is what we need on this block, right? Soon we will become the United States of I'm offended. I don't know. Okay, I mean, maybe. But here's the other thing. Here's the last thing that I'm going to talk about, because I've gone on and on and on. Y'all, it should not be about this rhetoric. It should not be about what these people say and what those people say. It should not be about the labels. It should not be ultimately about the emblems. It should be about, a friendly troll says, are you gay and are you talking about gay issues or in general? I'm talking about in general. I'm talking about in general. But yes, I'm gay, but I'm talking about issues in general. Um, it should be about, like, are people getting enough food? And how can we be sure that me and my family and people in my community, so like working collectively, because likely nobody is going to do something just to make sure you get enough food, right? But it should be about like making sure that we're getting enough food, that making sure that we have access to clean, renewable energy sources, making sure that we have water, right? Making sure that the young people have access to a good education, right? To the tools that they need to learn the skills that they will need to provide for themselves in the future, right? To have concern for what is happening with the planet, feeling like we have the power to have an impact on decisions that are made for the betterment of, not simply our society and like, we're all getting along, whatever. Yeah, yeah, we should get along. Yeah, I would love that for us to get along, but I don't want us to burn up either, right? I don't want us to like choke to death either, right? Because there's so much pollution. I don't want us to, be dying at the rates that we're dying of cancer and diseases that are preventable because of what's been put into our food, right? Those are the things that we should be talking about, not like, oh, they use the wrong pronoun. Like, come on now. No self-respecting activist or organizer is working on pronouns, y'all. And if that is what you think is going on in social movements right now, you need to get up right now. Turn off your computer right now. Get up and go out into the street and see what people are doing. And stop focusing so much on what people are saying on social media. Because if the most activism somebody is doing on social media, they ain't doing shit. Chichikov, I'm not sure what you, Chichikov, you said something, I think you have a typo in there, so I'm not sure what you were saying. Friendly Troll says, today we are spending over $120 billion every year on illegals. That money should be spent on our own. I don't even know what that means. What does illegals mean? Does that mean people in the criminal justice system? That mean the 2.5 million people behind bars right now? Yeah, I think we're spending too much money on that. So yeah, so I'm not sure what you mean by that, but yes. Yeah, Chickpea Sarni, thank you for the applause. Y'all, why is someone offended by apologies? Pot kettle. I'm not sure what that is in reference to, but yeah, no, yeah, we shouldn't. That's not what we should be focusing on. We shouldn't be focusing on what people say. We should be focusing on on actions that are having a material effect on our lives, our ability to breathe, eat, have clean water, clothes. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for sitting in on another live stream. That is it for this video. Those of you watching on YouTube, like this video. If you like it, share, comment, subscribe. This is Reg signing off. Love yourselves. Peace.